And a good afternoon. It's funny because I thought I was going to say Good Friday, but it's really Thursday. I know, we're almost there. Welcome to the Fox 5 Live Zone. I'm your host, Guy Lambert. Thank you so much for joining us. Coming up on the show today, well, yet again, sound like a broken record. The government shutdown continues. Now President Trump says he wants to lay off federal workers. However, a judge says, not so fast. We'll break it all down for you. We're talking Celebrity Dish with Poet Taylor. Apparently, Nicki Minaj crying foul, saying Jay-Z is, well, not so nice. She'll break it down. And R&B star Tony Terry, you remember him, performing at Bethesda Theater this weekend. But first, he's going to stop by the Fox 5 Live Zone. All that and more coming up on the show. But how about we talk weather, shall we? Tucker Barnes on the LZ. Hello, my friend.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm good. I'm a little tired, but, it happens midweek.
Can people at home appreciate your shirt?
Yeah, I've been waiting to
fall patterns on there.
Yeah, I see the fall trees.
Yeah.
I thought of you this morning when I saw that.
Yeah. They're starting to turn colors. In fact, as we get to the second half of October, we're kind of prime timing it right now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I love it.
You know what you should do for one of your shows? You should have a contest. Who can send in the best tree? I mean, picture of a tree.
Yeah. It's a good thing, Tucker.
Yeah.
Well, you're kind of good at this.
It's like when I was growing up. It's like you got the time, I got the beer. You
Yeah.
remember High Life?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got the time, I got the beer. We'll look at pictures of trees.
Well, let's crack them open and do it.
Okay, 56 in Washington at the noon hour, and we are talking about a cool afternoon, but a beautiful afternoon. In the trees, the leaves, the chlorophyll, the rest of that stuff, they love the cool, crisp overnight. So let's
Really? Okay.
Let's encourage it. If you want some color, these cool nights are really good for it. 56 in Washington, as mentioned. We'll be in the low 60s later this afternoon. We are going to be talking about temperatures, which are going to be a little on the cool side the next couple afternoons. But lots and lots of sunshine. Beautiful, beautiful Thursday afternoon for you. Beautiful evening if you're going out tonight. It will be picture perfect out there, but it'll get cool in a hurry. And tomorrow morning, Guy, we've got frost and freeze advisories north and west. Not here in the immediate inside the Beltway, not along 95, but north and west, are little elevation out there. Parts of Frederick County, Washington County. The higher elevations in West Virginia have a freeze warning for later tonight, tomorrow morning. Only reason that matters, again, is if you have sensitive vegetation, tomato plants, you don't want to go kaput. Not all the plants like the freezing temperatures. So you want to get them covered up or inside. There's your advisories. And again, mostly frost advisories for our region, but there is a freeze warning there well out to the west. All right, looking down the road, tomorrow looks great. Friday will be fantastic, mid-60s.
All right.
And then we're going to warm it up for the weekend and be really beautiful around here. Saturday, yes, a few more clouds, but no complaints when it's 70. And then we cloud up by Sunday afternoon, but I think we hold the rain off until you're done watching the Commanders at Fox 5 beat the Cowboys.
Oh, yeah. You
So
hit the nail right
what
on
I'm trying
the
to say
head
is
with
mostly
that
Sunday night, because I think that game's at 4, isn't it?
Yep.
4:25? Yeah.
one. Sure is. All right,
Okay.
good stuff. By the way, is it apple cider time of the year yet for you?
Yeah, but I'm more like hard. The hard cider, I don't know. It's a lot of work to get going. You know what I mean?
I'm with you on that one, too. So,
Right.
All right, cool. Yeah, you're a very knowledgeable man. Tucker Barnes with
I'd like to get to the point now.
all things
With
weather.
whiskey.
Hey, guys, if you haven't already done so, make sure you download the Fox local app. You see it right there on your TV screen. Get out your cell phone, click on the QR code, and you, my friend, are good to go. Well, it's the top story of the day. Week 3 of the government shutdown with no end in sight after another failed GOP funding vote, meaning Americans now feeling the grip of the shutdown with layoffs and no pay. Joining us for the very latest is streaming news anchor Syed Abbas back here on the Live Zone. It's yet another busy day for so many folks who are at home.
That's true, and there's a lot of movement going on right here in D.C., all over the country. We want to talk about the No Kings movement. Now, that's scheduled for this Saturday, and organizers of that movement are saying the shutdown is amplifying their message even more. Now, they're planning over 2,700 events nationwide, including one near the Capitol at 3rd and Pennsylvania, and we're going to be streaming this for you minute by minute on Saturday as well. We're going to have a crew on the scene there. You can check that out on Fox 5 Weekend Live this Saturday, and we're going to give you the latest from the scene. Again, organizers saying the shutdown is giving urgency to their message. Up to 200,000 people expected to show up right here in the nation's capital in D.C., and there's no end in sight for the shutdown. A lot of furloughed workers, again, left in limbo. President Donald Trump has directed the Department of Defense to use unspent research funds to keep military pay going at this point.
Yeah, you heard me make mention yet again of the GOP funding vote falling through. This is yet something we continue to see. Obviously we don't have a crystal ball in front of our hands, but any word or speculation as to when this could come to an end?
I feel like right now a lot of people are just seeing politicians point fingers at each other, which is why it's so concerning, because it's like you're seeing people just play the blame game at this point, you know?
Yeah, well, yet again, we will continue to keep a very close eye on this throughout the afternoon. Saeed Abbas joining us right here on the Live Zone. Well, dozens of reporters have turned in their access badges and exited the Pentagon rather than agree to new government-imposed restrictions on how they cover military news. The new rules would have required their reports to be approved by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. 5 major networks, including Fox, refused to sign the agreement. Here to discuss the historical and constitutional ramifications of this, we welcome former Time Magazine senior reporter and professor of political science, Mr. Alan Sanders, back here on the Live Zone. Professor, always good to see you, sir, and welcome back to the show.
Always nice to be with you, Guy.
All right, so what does this say about reporters who, like myself, we got to do our jobs?
Well, basically, it says that your job is going to be more difficult because the media doesn't really want to be spoon-fed news by the defense secretary or other elements of the Pentagon. You, as a reporter, of course, have to hear the official line, but there are also many things beyond the official line. And so reporters want to be able to have reasonably free access to members of the military and the military command so that they can look at the whole picture and report about the whole picture. So it's going to make the job more difficult, but the media understands that because it doesn't want to be spoon-fed.
Are you pleased with the pushback that we've seen thus far?
Yes, absolutely. It's a good move by the news media to act as a group. The Trump administration, not just with the media, but with other institutions like law firms and universities, has been using a divide and conquer kind of strategy. Go after one at a time and hope that they will all fall in line as dominoes. So it's important for these institutions to act as a group. And this is the first time the media is acting as a group. And so it's a useful pushback to tell the administration that divide and conquer is not something that people are going to put up with.
You just made mention of acting together as a group. What if they acted together as a group and said, you know what, we will move forward with this?
Well, if they had agreed to do that, it would basically have meant that the Pentagon and Hegseth could basically just rule the Pentagon and tell what they want to see come out of the Pentagon. And the media would have had to put up with it and get clearance for any reports that they produced about what's happening at the Pentagon. And that would have set a dangerous precedent because it would not only have been spoon-fed news from the Pentagon, but it would have encouraged other agencies and President Trump to go further and insist that all aspects of the government or other aspects of the government be using those kinds of rules to spoon-feed news to the media and have the media basically agree to being spoon-fed.
So we know this is happening at the Pentagon. I guess the next question is, will this and can this happen somewhere else? Do you think the Trump administration will do just that?
Oh, absolutely. They've shown that they've been willing to do that across all elements of society. It started with universities. It went on to law firms. It even included news media itself, in the sense that the Trump administration pressured the news media to settle certain lawsuits, or that the Trump administration had been fighting with the media. So this is something that is a strategy that they've been using, and this is the first time that elements of the news media have decided to push back. So it's an attempt to stop it with regard to the news media, but it's also a broader attempt to stop it with the administration going after other institutions.
So I guess we'll have to end with this, and that is it truly a wake-up call for all media?
I think so. I mean, the administration has been saying that it wants to be transparent and it's going to be transparent, but that's really double talk when you're talking about the fact that they want to actually control the news that comes out of the Pentagon.
All right, Professor Alan Sanders, always good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us right here on the Live Zone.
My pleasure.
We'll take our first break, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Quite a busy day on Capitol Hill. In just a minute, we will discuss a story that has really flooded the headlines. New York Attorney General Letitia James, who built her reputation, well, let's just say pursuing fraud charges against Donald Trump, has now been indicted herself. All that and more coming up momentarily. But of course, the other big story of the day, the government shutdown. All eyes on Capitol Hill. Lawmakers actually bickering. And here's what Mr. Johnson had to say.
Painful for real Americans. We're going to share a little bit about that situation with you this morning, and then get an update on one specific segment regarding Homeland Security and what that's doing for the security of our country. If you're keeping count, 9 times the Senate Democrats have voted to keep the government closed. All the House Democrats except one voted September 19th to shut it down. So this is 10 total times now that Democrats in Congress have voted to close the government. And we know what that means for real people. We know what it means for our troops and our Border Patrol agents and TSA agents and air traffic controllers and everybody who relies upon services around the country. It's very real. And so today marks yet another day of American families feeling the very real personal and economic strain of this reckless decision that our Democrat colleagues keep making. They want the United States government to remain closed, and they seem not to care about the pain that it's causing. They have offered no plan. They have offered no strategy. They have offered no common sense path forward for ending this situation. And so many of you have asked all of us, how will it end? We have no idea. It's up to the Democrats, and they have to decide it. And judging by their outrageous behavior, the Democrats appear perfectly happy to keep the political theater going while real people suffer. And that's why House Republicans made the responsible decision for our members to spend this week in their districts working for the people. They're helping their constituents. They're helping the American people navigate the mess that the Democrats have created. Staying back to work with our constituents was a decision that we made very thoughtfully, and we made collectively as a group, House Republicans. We have so much of that work to do. That's not some talking point. It's not some strategic tactic. We made that decision out of urgent necessity. So I want to highlight here just this morning, just very briefly, just a couple of examples, a small sample of some of the very important work that House Republicans are doing on the ground right now to help Americans through this difficult time. In the state of Michigan, for example, our members are sitting down with veterans, men and women who risked their lives for our country, and they're struggling now because the services they depend on, health services, for example, have come to a halt thanks to the Schumer shutdown. So in Michigan, our Republicans from the House are there working through those situations. In Texas, many of our Republican colleagues have met with some of our brave Border Patrol agents down on that southern border who are still reporting for duty without a paycheck. In Montana, Congressman Ryan Zinke helped park rangers who are keeping the parks open as best they can for families and travelers, even as they themselves go without a paycheck. Across the Midwest, we have members who are meeting with local and regional airports to hear firsthand how furloughs and blocked paychecks there are hurting the people who keep ours.
Yet again, Speaker Mike Johnson with remarks surrounding the government shutdown. The 4 words that, well, quite honestly, most Americans want to know: how will it end? That remains to be seen. Obviously, we will continue to cover this developing story throughout the afternoon right here on the Live Zone. Well, you heard me tease it about a minute ago. In this case, we're making reference to New York Attorney General Letitia James, who built her reputation pursuing fraud charges against Donald Trump. Well, she has now been indicted herself on federal bank fraud charges. The case stemming from alleged misrepresentation on a Virginia home mortgage, now sending shockwaves through the political and legal circles alike. Prosecutors allege James misrepresented a Virginia property as a secondary residence to secure, well, let's just say mortgage terms, then quietly housed her grandniece and her children there rent-free in violation of the loan agreement. Joining us to discuss this and so much more is political reporter Victoria Churchill back here on the Live Zone. Good to see you, Victoria, and welcome to the show.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for having me. And, I think you've teed it up quite perfectly. But one detail that I want to add into this whole situation is that the grandniece, Nakia Thompson, who allegedly lives in this Virginia property that James allegedly took out the second mortgage on, Thompson is actually wanted in North Carolina for probation violations. So I think that just goes to show a little bit further and underscore, to me at least, the irony of this situation, that, you know, you have somebody that is basically the top cop in New York City, or in New York State, excuse me, helping somebody else that is a fugitive in another state.
Yeah, so as they say, the
I just
plot
wanted to kick it off
thickens.
with that.
Well, it's thickened in a major way. To your point, this is very interesting, and I say that because, well, Ms. James has since come forward and saying it's all hogwash, and that's actually not the case.
Well, you know, I've seen video footage from individuals that actually went to that property and spoke to an individual who appeared to be James. And so, you know, to me, that is enough evidence to contrast what James has been saying. And then also another thing that I want to point to is that, you know, I earlier referenced New York City. That, of course, is where Zohran Mamdani is running to be the mayor. James has campaigned with Mamdani and actually talked about the idea that rents in the city are too high. And of course, she's done this while holding not only a mortgage, but a second mortgage, and doing that on terms that may be fraudulent.
Yeah. Victoria, I'm hoping you could speak to how the two-tier justice system, if you will, really fuels distrust across political lines.
Yeah, you know, it really does. So I primarily, in my role at the Daily Mail, I cover Capitol Hill. Just last week, there was a hearing on something that is called Operation Arctic Frost, where the now Trump administration has basically revealed information to members of Congress that members that, I believe it was 8 Republican senators, were being spied on by the previous Department of Justice under the Biden administration. And so again, you know, I think that really goes to show that people in top political positions have been targeted by other members of political circles, namely their political opponents. And so, you know, that doesn't just go between Trump and James. You know, I say they're kind of arch nemesis because she went after him for a number of things in New York, but it also extends to members of Congress, to the previous administration. And, you know, at least in my view, I think the Trump administration is trying to shed a light on some of these irregularities, or, you know, if you talk to other people, specifically these senators, they think they should never have been targeted at all just for associating with Donald Trump.
Well, to your point, it now appears as though that we are seeing selective enforcement in politics. If that's happening, it's also fair to say that, quite honestly, our faith in democracy, well, that's corroding.
Well, you know, I think that just underscores the importance of the work that journalists like myself do. You know, I'm not going to say that every single journalist out there does wonderful work, but I have faith in the work that I do and that my colleagues do to try and shed a light on some of these things. And, you know, sometimes we do this through our own investigations. Sometimes we see other investigations that are ongoing and kind of draw our own conclusions and share theories with readers, you know, based on evidence that we gather. But I think that just really underscores the importance of having a media that is robust, you know, that values, of course, free expression, but also allows journalists to do their job without, you know, being considered and, you know, without being attacked like so many members of the media are. And so, you know, again, I think that's just really important, because I think regardless of who's in power, you have to be skeptical, you have to be critical and look at things through a critical lens. You know, I always say that when I was in school, I was taught not how to think, but what to think. And I think that just really goes down to, say, my generation, and even the generation, you know, that's kind of coming up after me. You know, I'm in my late 20s, but I think we even have people that are in their early 20s that were kind of taught the opposite of that. They were taught what to think instead of how to think. And I think, you know, as a whole, that really erodes our society, because they take whatever message their preferred messenger is giving them without thinking about it critically.
Staying in the realm of what to think, I will then pose the question with regard to Ms. James. What do you think will happen next?
Well, you know, I think she should be scrutinized to the full extent of the law. And if it is found out that she did break laws, I think she should be punished regardless of the political office that she is elected to.
Yet again, something that we're going to have to keep a very close eye on. Before we wrap up, Victoria, what are you working on next over at the Daily Mail?
Well, we should have some very interesting stories dropping on the Daily Mail. You know, in terms of Congress, we're looking at some of these, you know, in and outs that are happening with, for example, inter-party struggles, both on the Republican and the Democrat side. A story that we're following closely is that, you know, Senator John Fetterman may be getting some pressure behind the scenes to, you know, in my view, shed an image that he has of being, you know, quite independent, obviously still having that D letter next to his name, but siding with Republicans on things like, you know, this government shutdown that you were talking about just before you had me on. You know, he was one of 3 Republicans that actually voted to keep the government open. And so, he may be being targeted by some folks back home, which again is interesting because a lot of them are members of Congress who
Sure.
are currently in. And so they kind of have to work with him in his current role. And then we've also got a very interesting story coming out in the next few hours about the White House. So definitely stay tuned and follow me on my social media platforms. I'm Victoria Snitzar Churchill on just about everything. And stay tuned for when that story comes out.
Yet again, you heard her say it herself. Victoria Churchill joining us right here on the Live Zone. I truly appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. Hope to be back on again soon.
Now the latest with regard to what's taking place between Israel and Gaza. Israel says it received the remains of 2 more hostages. That brings the total number of dead Israeli hostages to 9 out of the 28 bodies still suspected to be in the hands of Hamas. Israel has threatened to cut off aid to Gaza if all of the nearly 30 bodies are not returned. The ceasefire plan, brokered by President Trump, called for all hostages, living and dead, to be turned over by a deadline that expired on Monday. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Mr. Scott Feldman, Executive Vice President of One Israel Fund, back here on the Live Zone. Scott, it's been quite some time, my friend. Good to see you.
It's been a while, but it's great to see you too.
Yeah, I got to tell you, a lot has unfolded since we last spoke with regard to a ceasefire deal actually being implemented. I know you and I spoke about that for quite some time. I can tell, for the most part, we are both smiling from ear to ear. However, it appears, and it just appears, that ceasefire deal can, well, let's say, come to a quick end.
Well, as you know, it was always tenuous, but I remember sitting on your program a number of times basically saying that this entire war could end if Hamas would just put down their arms and give back our hostages. But giving back our hostages doesn't mean just the live ones, it also means our dead. And they're certainly playing some games because, even if they want to say that they don't know where some of them are located, one of them, Lieutenant Hadar Golden, they've been holding since, I think, 2014. And they know exactly where that is, where his body is. So they're playing games. They've always done this. We never thought that they would fully put down their arms. We've seen over the past few days, they've just basically been going around rounding up anyone that they consider to be collaborators with Israel or fighting against Hamas, and they've been publicly executing them. So it doesn't look like they have changed their ways whatsoever. And the president and the prime minister are going to have some very serious and hard decisions as to what the next step is, if in fact we are not able to get back our deceased, and what happens next as far as disarming and removing themselves from the leadership of the Gaza Strip.
You just made a mention of the Prime Minister, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu. Earlier today, he stated that the country will, quote, achieve all goals of this war, and then warned the struggle is not over. This obviously just days after Israel and Hamas agreed to the ceasefire hostage release deal. Those words you just heard me make mention, in your mind, what does that mean?
So look, if you saw any of the videos that came out of our hostages returning, it was the most incredible and beautiful experience. I know some of them and their families, and we're all very, very thankful to both the president and the prime minister for getting that phase of this war to a conclusion. But we know that the difficult steps are what comes next. And as the prime minister has stated, and the president has backed the prime minister up, that's not where this war is ending. And it has to come when Hamas is no longer a threat to the state of Israel. And we want to see the Gaza Strip move into a new phase with an actual government that puts their people ahead of the murder of our people. And until that can happen, until Hamas puts down their weapons and removes themselves from any kind of leadership position in the Gaza Strip, we know that that's not a reality. And based on that, the prime minister has made it very clear that anything short of that will require Israel to go back in and, so to speak, finish the job. What that looks like is very different than what it looked like a week ago, because we're no longer worried about our living hostages being either murdered or killed in a war situation. But again, nobody wants that. We would like to see the situation resolved diplomatically, Unfortunately, the only language that Hamas seems to understand is the military option, and that's going to have to remain on the table until all of the goals in the president's 20-point plan is realized.
Scott, as we all know, there happen to be two sides to a coin, and in this case, I'm making reference to the other side. We know that officials in Gaza have said that they received a further 30 bodies of deceased Palestinians earlier today, some of which showed signs of abuse, beating, handcuffing, and blindfolding. Under the ceasefire agreement reached between Hamas and Israel last week, Israel did agree to transfer the bodies of what it called 360 Ghazian terrorists. It remains unclear if the remains handed over this week include the terrorists you just heard me make mention of. Your response to that?
So again, I don't know the condition of those who were handed over. Israel has not made any statements yet, so it's hard for me to comment on it. I can tell you that terrorists are interrogated when they are captured. Israel has used tactics in the past in order to get valuable information that has saved lives. I cannot tell you if that's what happened here. War is a terrible thing. I know that Israel has the bodies to return. I know that they're waiting to see more movement from Hamas, which has mentioned that they cannot locate all the bodies that are missing, and I'm sure that Israel will release them as it's reciprocated. As far as the condition, I'm not really. Again, I would love to comment if I had any knowledge, but I don't. It's a tough part of the world, and there are things that happen that we in the West would look askance. And unfortunately, that's part of a war. We shut down Guantanamo Bay for similar accusations, whether they were proven or not. Also, keep in mind, Hamas releases a lot of information that is done in order to shape the hearts and minds of the Western world, and we know that they have lied many times in the past. So when they claim that 67,000 people have been killed, and they also claim in some cases that 70, 80, 90% of them were children, we know that it's an impossibility when you want to basically say that no terrorists, militants, whatever you want to call them, if you will, were killed in the process. We know that Israel has basically said that at least 20,000 of that number, which would be an incredible ratio of militant to civilian compared to other war zones, especially in urban warfare. So we know that there's a constant playing with the truth. That's all I can say. I can't tell you that that's what's going on here, but I would take anything that comes out of Hamas and put it under a microscope over time.
As we have all heard with regard to war, no one truly wins. In this case, let's just hope peace remains within that region. Yet again, we have been speaking with Scott Feltman, Executive Vice President of One Israel Fund. Scott, always good to see you, sir. Truly appreciate your time.
Guy, it's a pleasure to be back. Thanks.
Good stuff. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break. This is the Fox 5 Live Zone.
Can't believe I'm getting paid to do nothing. If federal employees can't even justify their own salary, how can anyone else? I've also uncovered bureaucrats who are holding several different government jobs simultaneously, but aren't doing any of them. For example, a full-time HUD employee was being paid for 2 other full-time, got this, folks? Okay, she was being paid for 2 other full-time government contractor jobs. So that's 3 full-time jobs in total. She frequently billed taxpayers for working more than 24 hours in a single day. Gosh, if I could find more than 24 hours in a day, that would be pretty extraordinary. But this woman was paid $225,000 for hours she never worked in nearly 3 years. 3 full-time jobs, people, not working any of them. This isn't an isolated case either. I've introduced my Double Dippers Act to cross-check paychecks and payrolls to identify and stop bureaucrats from double billing.
All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Of course, all things with regard to the government shutdown, obviously testimony, if you will, which I will call it, taking place on the Senate floor as we hope to bring the government shutdown to a close. Meanwhile, calling one, calling all. Teen Vision Stop the Violence Summit. You've probably heard about that, and if not, shame on you. It's taking place this upcoming Saturday, October the 18th, from 12 until 4 p.m., and it's all things all good. But don't let me tell it. Joining us to do just that is Dejanay Fennell, visionary entrepreneur and CEO and co-founder of Good Intentions Foundation, and Jessica Gregory, assistant director at the Cedar Heights Community Center for the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. Try saying that fast 3 times. Welcome, ladies, to the show.
Thank you so
much
for
I
having
am
us.
so glad that you all are here. You all are giving back in a major way. And so you heard me plug it, but for folks that are crawling from under a rock yet again and hearing about Teen Vision Stop the Violence Summit for the first time, do tell, what's it all about?
Thank you so much, Guy. We really appreciate you having us today. Teen Vision 2025, Put an End to the Violence, is October 18th, 2025, from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. It is a free event. You guys can register at pgparks.com.
Yeah. I'm thinking about all the violence we've seen as of late, and quite honestly, it's, some would argue it has not been as bad as it's been in the past. Others would say it's still a major issue. The bottom line is that you all want to address it. Why is it so near and dear to your heart to do just that?
Absolutely. It is so important, especially today, in today's society, to address the violence that's happening around us and to support our teens, find ways to be able to help them. And that is really what this summit is about, Guy. You know what I mean? Just really providing resources to our teens through speakers,
Sure.
through workshops, through breakout rooms, as well as a performance that, you know, if you come, a little special something.
Yeah.
But also through panel discussions.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You know, there's always ways to be able to reach out to our youth. And
Yes.
this is a way.
Yeah, speaking of reaching out, Dejanay, that's exactly what you're doing as well with regard to the organization that you're all a part of. We're talking about none other than what I like to call Good Intentions Foundation. Why did you decide, and the foundation decide to get involved?
So Good Intentions Foundation, we're really strong on empowering our youth. And we feel like through empowerment, that's how we can end teen violence and imbalance within teens. So we're just so happy to partner with Prince George County Parks and Recreation with this event, with our Teen Vision 2025. We're so excited to bring Secretary Montero out. Secretary is the Maryland Secretary of Civic and Innovation. He's going to be talking about how teens can find their voice and their power through service.
Wow, you know, it's really good that you all decided to take the bull by the horns, as they say, and really address this. So with that being said, I'm a visionary type of guy. I got to feel it. I got to see it. And so in this case, when I walk through the doors,
Right.
what am I going to be surrounded by? What am I going to see? What am I going to hear?
Yes. So on top of you know, the phenomenal people she had spoke about, right? They're also going to be states. Well, you said state's attorney Terry
Yeah, but we
Jackson.
have a special celebrity guest performance.
Yes.
His name is Trillion, and he is the youngest son of Busta Rhymes.
Wow.
He's going to be coming out. He is an up-and-coming rapper, leading within, following his dad's footsteps, forging his own path.
Yes.
So we're really excited to have him. He
Yes.
is a proud graduate of Lincoln University
Yes.
and a member of Kappa Alpha Psi.
Yeah.
So we're just happy to have him to talk to the kids, to perform, you know, his song, his hit single,
Yeah.
Show Me Your Love with NLE Choppa. So it's going to be a great time.
Yeah.
The kids are going to really enjoy themselves and
Yeah.
have a lot of fun.
As well as there's going to be Chairman Barnes, Director Stanton, that's going to be there. And we're going to have a lot of other couple of different things, you know, that they're going to be involved in, a lot of different exhibitors.
Yeah.
The breakout rooms that are going to consist, that are going to be led, shout out to our police department, Park Police, as well as Sea Pleasant Police, as well as Glenarden Police. They're all collaborating, and they're going to be doing a special breakout room that will also just shape the identity of what these kids are really going through nowadays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As well as yoga, Tai Chi,
Yes.
arts and crafts. There are going to be so many different things, and we're going to feed them, of course. So who doesn't like food? So you guys come on out. It is a free event, and you guys can register today.
You all covered the whole gambit. I mean, only thing missing is a roller coaster. Yet, I would argue with regard to what we're going to see, it's going to be one heck of a ride.
Yes.
And yet again, it all takes place this upcoming Saturday. It's the Teen Vision Stop the Violence Summit from noon until 4 p.m. Where at again?
Cedar Heights Community Center.
All right, and it's free. By the way, that happens to be my favorite F-letter word.
And again, to register at pgparks.com.
You do it all so well. Thank you so much, ladies,
Thank
for
you,
joining us
guys.
right here
Thank
on the
you for
Live
having
Zone.
us.
You're welcome. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Well, if you take a peek at the calendar, you will quickly realize it's World Anesthesia Day, a day we recognize the professionals who keep patients safe during, well, let's just say, life's most critical procedures. One of those leaders is Myra Branch, a night shift nurse at Inova's Trauma Center, who embodies the extraordinary skill and dedication it takes to deliver anesthesia in critical care when the rest of the world is asleep. She joins us right now on the Live Zone. Miss Branch, good to see you and welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Happy to be here.
I got to tell you, I was not familiar with this, and so that's why I said, you know what? We got to make sure we tell the world about this, and we're going to sing it from the mountaintops. In this case, we're discussing all things surrounding World Anesthesia Day. For you, it's something that I would argue it's what you do day in and day out. For the rest of us, myself included, I'm just so fascinated about what you do and how you do just that. Do tell.
Oh, okay. Well, I work in a level 1 trauma center and I take care of patients across the age span from the elderly to the newborn infants. And in a level 1 trauma center, it's like very unexpected. It's like a box of chocolate, as Forrest Gump would say. You never know what you're going to get working at night. So everything from transplants, heart, lungs, to last night I was delivering 10 babies. So it's very extensive type of environment.
Yeah, it's so funny. My last encounter with someone that does something very similar or the exact same that you do happened to be when I was having my colonoscopy. And I remember the gentleman said, "I want you to count to 10." I think I got to 3, and then I was knocked out. So, but it's such a critical role, and it's so important, so much so that we're really looking for nurses in rural communities as well. Is that the case?
Yeah, CRNAs work autonomously, can work autonomously, and we provide the majority of care in rural communities and underserved areas, providing critical access to patient populations in that area for diagnostic procedures, surgical procedures, and just generalized health care.
So, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis, and how do you overcome them?
Some of the biggest challenges we face is just letting the public know who we are, that we are highly educated, trained, safe, trusted practitioners of anesthesia, and that we work autonomously throughout all the military services on the front line, on battleships. We work in conjunction in hospitals and surgery centers and dental offices. That's the biggest challenge, is just people knowing who we are. And to overcome that, we celebrate the AANA, our American Association of Nurse Anesthesiology. They, for World Health Day, World Anesthesia Day, has started a campaign so that people know who we are and the valuable services we provide.
Yeah, but not only that, it's fair to say that you all really contribute to improving the affordable quality and, well, let's just say overall health to so many folks that are in dire need of help.
Absolutely. And we are the solution to access to care. We are direct providers. We're with the patient from the beginning to the end and everything in between. We are constantly there monitoring every beat of their heart rate, managing changes in the environment as far as stimulation and things that are going on for their procedures. So yes, we are definitely a cost-effective way to increase access to healthcare.
So, if you could, let's say, have that crystal ball in front of you, or in this case, we're talking about the genie lamp, and you could make a wish, what would that wish be surrounding what more people would know about the role of what you do?
If I had a crystal ball and I could wish for one thing, I wish that I could practice, or CRNAs could practice to the full extent of their training and education, and that the public would know that they are in safe, trusted hands, that nurse anesthetists, CRNAs, or nurse anesthesiologists administer over 50 million anesthetics a year.
Wow. That's truly amazing to think that many. And so with that, as we close out, one last thing that we can all do to celebrate Anesthesia Day.
One thing we could celebrate Nurse Anesthesia Day, World Anesthesia Day, is to, when you go in for a procedure, ask about a nurse anesthetist, nurse anesthesiologist, who actually is going to be there at all times during my anesthetic or during my procedure. And you will be amazed the answer you're going to get, because we're kind of like the best kept secret, that we're the ones that are actually there giving your anesthesia.
Yeah, yet again, we are thinking and celebrating and truly appreciate all that you do as we recognize World Anesthesia Day on this very good day. I truly appreciate your time. We have been speaking with Myra Branch, joining us on the Live Zone.
Thank you, Guy.
You're welcome. All right, folks, it's a busy day throughout the world, quite honestly. Speaking of World Anesthesia Day, in this case, we're going to take you to the United Nations, a presser underway. This is what we call the question and answer portion. Let's take a look.
Ones who will call violations of the agreement. We do not want to see any more civilians killed. We do not want to see any fighting at this point. Okay, thank you all. Enjoy the day. Enjoy tomorrow, because it's Friday. Goodbye.
And just when it begins, it ends. But that's what happens from time to time. Yet again, United Nations discussing all things with regard to world politics. We'll take a quick break. Hey, on the flip side of that break, we're talking Google. Yeah, in this case, Cybersecurity Awareness Month. All that and so much more coming up next, right here on the Live Zone. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, as online scammers become increasingly sophisticated, scams are now on the rise. According to the FBI's 2024 Internet Crime Report published back in April, some $16 billion happened to be lost due to online scams. That's 33% more than the year before. Oh, by the way, I should make mention that October happens to be Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and Google is here to save the day, now here to help people stay safe online with the latest tips. Joining us to do just that is Mr. Mike Sino, Google cybersecurity expert back here on the Live Zone. Good to see you, Mike, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Guy. How are you?
I'm doing well. I got to tell you, I will be doing a lot better once we get some tips with regard to making sure you and I and everybody else watching can stay a lot safer. I'm curious, what are the top search trends in online safety?
We're seeing several. We see a lot of searches for identity theft protection, which indicates to me that people are really worried about it or have been affected by identity theft. We see a lot of searches for password managers. People are taking password management seriously. Online fraud protection, how do you protect yourself from scams and fraud and everything else? And even basic things like what is a phishing email? Although phishing can kind of range from email to text messages to even phone calls.
All right, so you heard me make mention of Google to the rescue. In this case, it's Google and AI to the rescue as well. I'm hoping you could share with us Google's latest AI-powered safety protections.
Yeah, I mean, AI overall, it's a blessing and a curse. It helps supercharge scammers and helps them create more convincing emails and texts, but we're using it for good. We're making links safer in Google Messages, so if you use an Android phone and you get a text message, it will actually scan the link to see if it's potentially phishing. Gmail has used AI before it was cool. And we're using it to block 99.9% of spam and phishing messages. And we also have an AI-powered scam detection feature that will look at your email and try to determine if there is possible scam links in there and disable them so you don't accidentally click on them. And from day to day, my team and I at Google use AI to protect Google itself in any number of ways.
Yeah, I got to tell you, this is truly one of a kind. It's truly interesting, but it's, as you said, it's state of the art, and it's something that, in my opinion, happens to be somewhat futuristic. I guess the next question is, how safe? And I know you touched on it, but there are so many folks that are so skeptical, and they're saying, oh my gosh, we shouldn't do this, but I have a feeling you beg to differ.
How safe is AI? Is that your
That is
question?
correct, along with Google and using it to really protect oneself from cybersecurity.
Yeah, what we're focusing on very specifically is how we do AI safely. Safety is a key priority. So, using it to help everyone with Google accounts that use Google to protect themselves, as well as, kind of enrich what the activities they're doing. It's a relatively new technology, but when you look at the foundations of it, it's been, companies have been using AI for many years. We're just not really seeing it come into the mainstream now.
All right, Mike, we'll wrap up with this, and that happens to be some of the steps that we can take, lastly, in order to make sure you and I and everyone watching stay secure.
Yes, I think that my biggest recommendations would be to use passkeys on your account where you can. That will allow you to, instead of having to enter a password, just authenticate with a PIN code or a face scan or your fingerprint. And if you can't use them, because not every website on the internet supports them, I'd say use two-step verification, which adds kind of a second layer to your password, and always use a password manager and use different passwords on the websites that you access, so that even if someone compromises one password on one website, they can't go to every other website as you. Also, be careful with clicking on links in text messages. Especially ones that seem to be urgent requests. There's lots of scams out there. Recently, we've seen toll road scams where you get a text message on your phone saying that you owe a toll for the highway, but it's something you've never been on. And even social security scams where people will call and say that your social security number has been suspended, which is just silly. But it's very easy to fall for when you're not really sure, and it's somebody trying that's pretending to be helpful.
Yeah, I got to tell you, you were truly helpful with regard to making sure we have all things awareness surrounding Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Yet again, we've been speaking with Mr. Mike Sano, Google cybersecurity expert, joining us right here on the Live Zone. I enjoyed this, my friend.
Thank you very much, Guy.
You bet. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Try to say that fast 3 times. We are now 3 minutes away from the top of the hour. Why do I bring that up? Because at the top of each hour, all eyes turn yet again to Capitol Hill, where we are experiencing a government shutdown. Will lawmakers finally get it together and reopen the government? Saida Abbas joining us yet again, Fox 5 News streaming anchor with the latest.
Yeah, Guy, I feel like a lot of people are not seeing an end in sight when it comes to the shutdown now that we're starting the 3rd week, especially as the Trump administration has talked about more layoffs that are coming up as well. Talking about protests, those are growing as well. We're going to talk about the No Kings movement.
Sure.
And that's over 2,700 events nationwide, including one near the Capitol at 3rd and Pennsylvania right here. Locally, organizers are saying so the shutdown is giving an even more urgency to their message, and up to 200,000 people could show up here in D.C. on Saturday. Now we're going to have minute-by-minute coverage of that on Saturday. Throughout the day, we're going to have multiple crews on the scene there, and we're going to cover all of this on Fox 5 Weekend Live. It's going to be on Fox Local. You can watch it on the website on fox5dc.com. And again, the administration threatening more federal layoffs despite a judge's temporary restraining order blocking those firings. So no end in sight so far. I think all people are seeing is that they're just pointing fingers at one another at this point.
Yeah, with regard to that protest, we were discussing this off air. We were covering the 200-year or 250-year anniversary of the Army over the summer when that actually took place, the protest. And I got to tell you, there were a plethora of folks outside of our TV station right here in Bethesda. So it's something to be seen. It was a sight to see, and I'm pretty sure, bless you, we'll see something like that yet again sometime in the near future.
Yeah, again, we're going to have full coverage of that on Saturday, so make sure you tune into Fox 5 Weekend Live on the Fox Local app as well. We want to get to another very heartbreaking, disturbing story that is coming out of Oakdale Middle School in Maryland. A special education assistant is facing multiple charges after being accused of allegedly sexually abusing at least 2 special needs students at Oakdale Middle School. And the suspect, 22-year-old John McAleer, was arrested after he barricaded himself in a bedroom and attempting to take his own life. And then he was treated in a DC hospital, extradited back to Frederick County, where now he is being held. He's facing multiple counts, and that's including sexual abuse of a minor and offenses involving cognitively impaired victims. And this investigation is ongoing at this time, but authorities are saying more victims may be out there. So again, a very disturbing story coming out of that middle school there.
This really just pulls at the heartstrings. I mean, to think as a parent, you send your child to school to learn, and then quite honestly, in this case, a child or 2, or perhaps even more, well, they face something that they should not have faced at all. Truly troubling. And yet again, we'll have more information throughout the afternoon. Of course, for the latest, you could log onto our website, and that's fox5dc.com. Great job as always. Truly appreciate it. Saida Abbas joining us right here on the Live Zone. We'll take a quick break. Hang on the flip side of that break. Let's have a little fun, shall we? Celebrity Dish next with Poet Taylor right here on the Live Zone. All right, guys, just like that, we're right back at you on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Time now for a little celebrity dish with Poet Taylor, WPGC Midday Shenanigans. Good to see you, my friend. Love the background there, Poet.
Listen, I'm out Navy Yard getting my vest on. I really people just want to see my jacket. So I was like, let me have the best light ever. Yeah.
Poet, we're trying to keep this a G-rated show. Let me just say that.
Keep a shirt on this time, guy. I'm gonna keep a shirt on.
Speaking of G-rated, nah, that's not what's coming out of Nicki Minaj's mouth. Apparently, she is upset in a major way. Nicki Minaj saying now that she's not going to put out her new album anymore, and she's threatening to cancel her plans for the album altogether. She claimed on X early yesterday she wouldn't be releasing any more music, and, well, guess what, Poet? She's placing the blame on none other than Hov. Yes, I'm talking about Jay-Z. Apparently, there's a feud with Roc Nation. Then she said, well, yet again, that she was going to nix her plans for the upcoming album. Okay, I'm not going to put out the album anymore, she wrote. No more music. Hope you're happy now. The Barbs were upset with Nicki's cancellation, and some pleaded with her to take a break from social media. What the heck is going on with this, Poet?
I am team, get her a team and take a break. The one thing I will say, Guy, is Nicki B on the socials talking everything about everybody and calling them out by name. You know the one thing we've never talked about? Her being sued for slander. Her being sued for talking about anybody. So I'm just saying, where there's smoke, there might be fire. We don't know how much. And in this day and age of trolling us till you drop a project, I ain't so sure we're not going to get the album because I am a part-time barb and I was kind of waiting on it, but I'd rather see her at 100%. And at the same time, what if we come to find out that everything that she's saying is the truth?
Yeah. Well, I think it all stems with regard to her beef with Jay-Z, that whatever that streaming platform he had, it was sold and she claimed to have partial ownership in it all. And, well, according to her, she didn't get her cut, so now she's heaping mad. And if that's actually the case, hey, I can see why she's truly up in arms.
Yeah, but if you did not get your money, get a lawyer and get your money. I've never understood the idea. What you telling me for, girl? That is out of my price range, tax bracket, and pay cut. So I don't know nothing about that. Don't take it to us. What we gonna do? What we gonna do, Nicki?
I can truly feel you on that. Let's move on, because I have a feeling you and I could talk about that one all day. Let's move on to, in this case, the Real Housewives of Orange County star Tamra Judge dropping a bombshell about none other than, well, yeah, that woman you see right there on the left-hand side of your screen, Wendy Osefo. Apparently, she said that she got a DM from one of Wendy's neighbors about the claims that her home was burglarized, and said the whole entire neighborhood immediately thought it was insurance fraud. Now, that's what you call a bombshell there, Poet.
Why? Why would you think it was immediately insurance fraud? Now, see, this sound like some people who got together who may possibly put raisins in their potato salad and think about people in a certain kind of way, and you went with a stereotype. Because if my neighbor got robbed, I don't think I'm sending DMs and assuming, because what, I assume this person couldn't possibly have the money that they talk about, that they got robbed. That's just, I think people doing that says more about them and their circle than it does about Dr. Wendy and old Happy Eddie. That's just me.
Yeah, you know, I'm really, well, obviously, innocent until proven guilty. I spoke about this yesterday, but, you know, for folks that don't know, apparently, you know, alleged insurance fraud, claimed that the home was broken into, jewelry was stolen. Now, the only problem with this, Poet, is that that jewelry that she claimed happened to be stolen, well, guess what? She popped up on the scene wearing that jewelry yet again. How could you do that if it happened to be stolen?
I want to quote Chad Ochocinco Johnson on this. He said that he has jewelry and then he has cubic zirconia replicas of said jewelry, because when you be outside, people be trying to get to you. So I love the idea of innocent before proven guilty, because what if she had a replica? Or what if she got multiple pieces of jewelry? We just gonna assume, old girl? Because that sounds like the dumbest criminal in the world. That I done reported these things, that it don't take nothing more than a Google search or to look at an old reel to know that I'm lying.
Yeah. All right. Well, like we said, innocent until proven guilty. So we'll just have to wait. Hey, we got time for one more, Poet. In this case, we're talking about Jennifer Lopez getting candid when it comes to her love life. During a recent interview, the star shut down rumors that she would join a dating app. J-Lo went on to explain that she's simply old-fashioned when it comes to finding love. She also revealed that when it comes to her past relationships, she's not unlovable, but rather, quote, they are not capable. Oh, wow.
You just heard shots fired, and I'm trying to figure out why. What they do to you? But here's what I will say, Guy, because we love to see it. She's absolutely correct. It is hard for a woman on her A game to date right now. It's like people are upset or bothered, or they don't know how to approach women who has everything going on. And my daddy always say, sometimes it ain't you, it be them. They just don't know it yet. So I'm here for it.
Yeah.
J-Lo, do what you must, but don't say no to the dating apps. Wouldn't it be cool for her to hop on a dating app and then you don't even know you getting J-Lo, and then you end up with J-Lo, but you win her over with your personality? Wait a minute, I might need to be on a dating app. It's like, I don't know, Maria Montreal or something.
Watch it, poet. I'm telling you, you're going to have a lot of folks trying to make that love connection, if you will. Hey, I got to run, but before I do so, you're working on a couple of things, right?
Two major things are happening. One, this Saturday, Flex and Todd are going to be celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Million Man March in Maryland. Details at WPGC.com, because today is the 30th anniversary. Then on Sunday, Fall Festival with me at the Woodbridge Library. Again, we're choosing joy in the midst of chaos, and we're going to have face painting, bumper cars, pumpkin patch, caricatures, free food, giveaways, all of that absolutely free from 1 to 5, because it takes a village to navigate rocky waters, and we're going to do this together. So pull up on me. Don't spend nothing, and just let me love up on you.
Absolutely love it. Speaking of doing this together, poet, I know you got to run and hop back on the radio, but when you do so, keep us on. Why? Because R&B sensation, the world famous Tony Terry, is going to be joining us next, right here on the Live Zone. Poet, I truly appreciate you. We'll chat soon.
Hey, Tony.
We'll be right back. All right, guys, just like that, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone, we are T-minus a couple of minutes away from R&B star Tony Terry joining us. But in the meantime, of course, the big story, well, it's the government shutdown. Senators still discussing it, debating it. Let's go ahead and take a look in.
It's the 16th of October, and conditions in this part of the state of Alaska right now, we're moving into winter. We're moving into winter, and so the idea that you can do construction in the wintertime, it doesn't happen. The last fuel barge to this region until next spring, until probably late May or June, the last fuel barge has come and gone. That means the ability to move supplies in and out and do any kind of construction, that's not happening. So for so many of these are going to be people who will be without a home. but I'm reminded that they are not homeless. They are not homeless. They are evacuees, and all they want is the ability to be safe somewhere for the moment. But looking forward, it's going to be hard. It's going to be very, very challenging to address the issues that they face in their community with the threats that they have. The storm that they had, we get storms every year. We get storms every year, but what we're seeing is an increasing frequency of lethal storms. Several years ago, we had Typhoon Merbok, again coming across from Japan, that just pummeled the coast. Again, a 1,000-mile storm. We're still recovering from Hurricane Merbok, or Typhoon Merbok. And then just last year, again, another series of disasters along this same coast. And then this weekend, Typhoon Halong, once again, coming across from Japan. So the reality is we're seeing more and more of these. And the reality is that these storms come in October, but it used to be that we would already have ice that was coming into these northern waters by then. And the ice was enough to slow things down, to cool the waters down. But when you don't have the ice in the water is warming. This was perhaps an unusual weather pattern that came, but combined with that warmer water, it just churns this typhoon up. And so our reality is we're seeing in real time the impacts when you have a warmer ocean and less ice, which leads you to how you deal with these issues and these matters of resilience. This is hard. This is extraordinarily hard right now. And our hearts are with those who have lost their loved ones, who have lost so much, who have lost their home, but who are so anxious about what this means going forward and how we can be there for them. So I've got a great deal of respect and thanks and admiration for all who are pulling together to provide for relief efforts and to be thinking more long-term about how we ensure that the people of Quig and the people of Kiknuk and the people of Nightmute and Napakiak and Stebbins and Tuksuk and all up and down the coast, that they are safe in their homes where they have lived for thousands of years. Right now, we have the largest gathering of Alaska Natives that are convening in Anchorage for their annual convention. And so much of the convention this year is going to be focused on the matter of resilience and support for our communities. So I share these observations with colleagues, not because Alaska's storm is more powerful or more lethal or more devastating than the storms you may have in your state, Mr. President. Tennessee has seen some awful, horrible flooding. We're seeing this now, but it's a reminder to us here in Congress of the role that we do play, because all of our communities don't have the ability to provide that protection for themselves. So how do we build out more resilient communities? And then further to that point, when the disaster happens, how can we be there to support them in ways that make it real and meaningful for them, particularly in cultures where traditions may just be different than what we know and understand here in Washington, D.C. I'm going to end with a couple comments that were made just the other day when the governor held a press conference about the ongoing impacts of this disaster. And one comment was made by U.S. Coast Guard Captain Christopher Culpepper, who said, If you think about previous instances of major inundations, such as Hurricane Katrina, that will start to paint the picture for what you might imagine what has happened along western Alaska. And then our Adjutant General, General Sachs, said that this may end up being the largest off-road system response for the National Guard in about 45 years. So our reality is hard right now, and it's challenging. But one thing that I know about the people, not only in this region, but the people in my state, is there is a level of resilience, there is a level of determination. They are connected to their place, they're connected to their lands, and we want to make sure that they are able to have that cultural connection, that identity to the place that they have called home for thousands of years. And my final point is those who were literally engaged in rescue efforts to ensure that people were taken out of homes that were floating in the ocean, those that were doing the overflights in miserable storms, those that are there on the ground now, they were all out there doing their job at a time when it was not certain that they were going to be paid. Now that tension point has been resolved because the president announced that our military would be paid through this next pay period. The Coast Guard as well, which is critically important. But I think our job, our responsibility, is to make sure that they don't have to worry about that. When they're flying a rescue mission, they're not thinking about whether or not their spouse at home is concerned about whether they're buying groceries or paying the rent. So we've got work to do here, but to those back home in Alaska who are working so closely on the ground to care for those who are truly afraid right now, truly afraid about their future, know that we are all working with you, and our hearts are with you. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Yet again, all things with regard to the government shutdown. It continues. Many want to know, when will it end? Will it come to an end, and how soon? That continues to be debated on the Senate floor.
Threats Act, a no-brainer step to defend our citizens from cyber threats. This is a very wonky law, but it has a very, very simple objective: to encourage companies, private sector companies, to report hacks to the government so that together we can prevent it from happening again. This bill extends protections defined back in 2015 that encouraged companies to report cyber attacks to the federal government. It minimizes the risks companies once faced in reporting these hacks, and in doing so, it makes us all safer. Extending these protections has never been more important. Today, cyber attacks are top of mind for Americans across the country and certainly across the political spectrum. 2 months ago, I traveled to Benton Harbor, Michigan, and Troy, Michigan, two communities, to talk about national security threats and what is keeping Michiganders up at night. Nearly every single person, regardless of profession or party, had a story about cybercrime, identity theft, robocalls and scams robbing people of their life savings, hacks on hospitals for patient data, and shut down access to electronic records. As a former CIA officer and Pentagon official, I've responded to countless threats to American security, but never before have we seen American citizens so exposed to security threats here at home. In the age of cyber warfare, everyday Americans are quite literally on the front lines. And Americans know the stakes. That's why they're scared. One Michigander said to me, quote, "Warfare is still on the ground, still things like rockets, but it's also changed. Cyber warfare can be just as brutal." But more than scared, Michiganders are frustrated. They don't believe that their government is taking the threat of cybercrime seriously. And if we don't renew this law, we will prove them right. On October 1st, the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act of 2015 expired, last October 1st. That means that companies are no longer incentivized to report hacks to the federal government. When a company self-reports a cyber attack, there is no longer a law to prevent the Justice Department from using that admission against them. And companies, once again, are incentivized to hide hacks from the government, which makes us all less safe. Companies have to see the government as an ally, not as a threat, and our safety depends on it. Because unlike other threats, like tanks and nukes and subs, the weapons used in cybercrimes are not created, owned, and controlled by a government. They are from the private sector. So we have to work together to prevent these attacks. This law has already been consequential. Department of Homeland Security used it to respond to China's relentless Salt Typhoon campaign, which targeted every single American's unencrypted phone calls and text messages. And as long as the law remains expired, America is less safe. As long as we refuse to renew it, we are moving backwards in keeping the country secure. So today, very simple, I'm calling on my colleagues to renew these protections for another 10 years. They're renewed for 10 years at a time, so we can restore our cybersecurity defenses and better protect our nation. There's no good reason not to renew it. Businesses support it. The Trump administration supports it. My colleagues on both sides of the aisle support it. I know there's a proposal out there to extend the law instead of 10 years for just 5 weeks in the House's version of the temporary funding bill. But it's such a pivotal time for something that's actually a bipartisan consensus idea. Half measures shouldn't do. We've known that this was going to expire for 10 years. Americans deserve for it to have us not kick the can down the road just for another 5 weeks. There's too much at stake, particularly given the losses among the American public. So some things are bigger than party politics, and national security should always be one of them. This law is essential to keeping the country safe, to keeping Americans safe. So I urge my colleagues to renew it. In legislative session, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the consideration of calendar number 182 S.2983, that the Peters substitute amendment, which is at the desk, be considered and agreed to, the bill as amended be considered, read a third time and passed, and the motion to reconsider be considered, made, and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Is there objection?
Mr. President, I
Senator
object.
from Kentucky.
I object.
Objection, sir.
All right, yet again, the discussion continues on the Senate floor surrounding all things with regard to the government shutdown. We're going to take a quick break. Before we do so, I want to bring you an update. We're just getting word, reports out of the White House that President Trump has now decided to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Hungary to discuss ending the war in Ukraine. This just happening minutes ago. Obviously, we will have more information throughout the afternoon and right here on the Live Zone. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. We're guys back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. It is now 1:30. Yes, the bottom of the hour. Time to talk politics, shall we? In this case, it all surrounds President Trump, who has now directed the Department of Defense to use unspent research funds to pay military personnel during the shutdown. This as FBI Director Kash Patel announced that agents will also continue to receive paychecks, crediting President Trump with finding alternate funds in order to do so. Joining us to discuss this and so much more is Andrea Kaye from The Andrea Kaye Show and political strategist back here on the Live Zone. Hello, Andrea. Good to see you.
Hey, Guy. Always great to see you.
All right, let's start off with some breaking news. And I hate to throw a zinger at you, but this just happened minutes ago and it's out of the White House. After long discussions with Russian President Vladimir Putin earlier today, President Trump has now announced that he will meet one-on-one with Putin in Hungary to talk about ending the war in Ukraine. Obviously, he is due to meet with the Ukrainian President Zelensky tomorrow at the White House. This is major news happening just minutes ago, Andrea.
Well, it's great news in my opinion, and I have far more confidence in President Trump that he is going to meet with Vladimir Putin and finally put an end to this war that would have never started in the first place if Trump had been president. And let me remind everybody that he did win the election in 2020. And had President Trump been in office, President Putin, Vladimir Putin would not have gone into Ukraine. Let's remind everybody they went into Ukraine when Obama was president. They stopped when Trump was president, then went back in when Biden was president. And coming off the heels of this historic deal that was done with President Trump and his team to end the war in Gaza and return the hostages, everyone should have full faith in President Trump to get this done. He is not like George W. Bush guy who said, oh, I looked in Putin's soul. I mean, please.
Well, I tell you one thing, the president is definitely on the roll. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe if he's able to help solve the conflict that's currently taking place between Russia and Ukraine, that will be issue number 9. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. He's already, the list is too long for me even to remember, Guy. And it's one of the reasons why the Prime Minister of Pakistan the other day said, look, I already nominated President Trump for the Peace Prize when he ended the Pakistan-Indian war. That was number 7. Gaza is number 8. This would be number 9. I know that President Trump said that and predicted he would end this Ukraine-Russia war sooner. But because it has been allowed to go on for so long, so much ground has been gained by both sides, and it's just made things so much harder for President Trump and his team to bring an end to it. In fact, and one of the hiccups for that was Zelensky. Let's remind everybody, he said, I'm not going to end this until I get all of Crimea back, which has long been just even the residents of Crimea say, look, there are homeboys in Russia. We're happy to stay with Russia. So we'll see how this flushes out, but I think Trump is going to finally bring an end to this.
Yet again, if you're just joining us, we are getting word out of the White House that President Trump will meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Hungary to talk about ending the war with Ukraine. Back here at home, Andrea, we are now getting word that Senate Majority Leader John Thune told Democrats that he could guarantee a vote on Affordable Care Act subsidies by a certain date, adding that at some point Democrats have to take yes for an answer. Now, what's really interesting here is that so many folks are saying, look, in essence, he's promising that this will happen, saying that Democrats, you got to trust the Republicans. However, we both know that's not the case for most Democrats. What do you think will happen here?
Well, I think this was a brilliant move on John Thune's part because he's calling their bluff, because the Democrats are out there not really selling it hard. The American people aren't buying it, but they're trying to sell the notion that they're the party that's trying to save healthcare for Americans, even though we all know that their counter proposal was to remove $50 billion of funding for rural hospitals. And their counter proposal included not just healthcare for illegal aliens that was removed in a House bill that's already passed, but they're trying to get ridiculous kind of taxpayer funded nonsense, like what, $13 million for desert locust in the Horn of Africa and millions of dollars for LGBTQ stuff in the Western Balkans. Look, this is a brilliant move because if the Democrats don't take this, it's just the final nail in their coffin as we go forward. And hat tip to President Trump, who has found a way, like he always does, to continue to get the military taken care of.
Yeah, speaking of the military, we know that U.S. service members got paychecks this week despite the government shutdown. The White House also releasing a memo from President Trump directing the Pentagon to use unspent funds to pay the military. To your point, now those funds will be replenished once the shutdown ends. Correct me if I'm wrong, Andrea, but doesn't it seem like a Band-Aid approach perhaps to something that's really in dire need of a permanent bandage?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, President Trump would not have to use MASH medicine. He wouldn't have to be throwing a tourniquet on it if the Democrats would just come and pass the continuing resolution, the same one that they passed in March, the one that's been passed, approved by Democrats and voted by Democrats 13 times previously. It's the Democrat Party that's going to need some life support and some triage if they continue.
All right, let's take it to California. In this case, a federal judge in San Francisco now blocking the Trump administration from laying off federal workers during the shutdown. Unions asked the federal court to block the move, calling the firings illegal. The President Clinton-appointed judge then called the layoffs politically motivated. Her decision is expected to be appealed by the White House. What do you think is going to end up happening with this, Andrea?
I think the same thing that happened before with this judge. Isn't this the same judge that tried to block President Trump and his reduction in force moves, and then it made its way to the Supreme Court, and they lifted the injunction against the Trump administration because he is the chief executive. He has every right as the chief executive in this country who, to decide what happens with the different agencies that he oversees, and including reductions in force. That's absolutely a right as president. And for being politically motivated, well, duh. He is a politician but he was elected by the people to pass the people's political agenda, and that's what he's attempting to do.
All right, we'll end with this, and that is Vice President J.D. Vance now dismissing a young Republican group chat filled with, let's say, controversial text messages as young boys and telling, quote, edgy jokes. A report released Tuesday said the young GOP leaders made thousands of messages with racist, sexist, and violent language, including praise for Hitler. The vice president stating, quote, kids do stupid things, and telling offensive jokes, rather, should not ruin their lives. I guess the question that I want to pose to you is, do you think he would take the same approach if the shoe happened to be on the other foot and these kids happen to be young Democrats?
Well, I think that I agree with J.D. Vance. The Democrats had to scour the bowels of the internet to find some young punks at different colleges around the country saying some crass, nasty, disgusting what Politico themselves referred to as jokes. Meanwhile, we got a whole lot of old Democrats spewing some of the worst type of rhetoric, inciting violence, like Chuck Schumer, when he thought the Dobbs decision was going to be overturned and threatened Supreme Court Justices Kavanaugh and Gorsuch. And then what did we have? Somebody arrested plotting the assassination of Kavanaugh and 3 Supreme Court justices. The violent rhetoric on the part of high-level officials in the Democrats has resulted in 2 assassination attempts against a former president and resulted in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And if Politico wants to do an article on nasty text messages, they can pick up some of the screenshots of what was said to Winston Sears the morning after her phenomenal debate against Abigail Sparnberger, where she was called the N-word up, down 1,000 different ways, and her hair was referred to as a Brillo pad. That's what Winston Sears is having to deal with.
Yeah.
She's too good for you, Virginia. She's got more class in one of her earlobes than the entire Democrat Party.
I think we can all agree, no matter what side of the fence you sit on, that type of behavior is not acceptable. And hopefully it's something that we can see go to the wayside. Yet again, we have been speaking with Andrea Kaye, political strategist and host of the Andrea Kaye Show. Real quick, what do you have on the show this week?
Well, this week I've got to be updating everybody on the shutdown, what's happening there. And we're all going to be keeping our eyes on Trump and Russia and Putin to see if we can finally bring that war to an end, as well as we're going to continue to keep our eyes on whether or not Hamas is going to hold their end of the bargain in that peace deal.
Yeah, that's a big if. And we'll have to see, to your point, if that will happen. Truly appreciate your time, Andrea. We'll chat soon.
Thank you so much. Bye, Guy.
All right, guys, we'll take a quick break. Hey, on the flip side of that break, it's time for our Thursday Talkers. Intern John joins us. One of the topics, apparently a lot of folks are scared of the dark. Is he? We'll find out next, right here on the Live Zone. It's back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. We are 19 minutes away from the top of the hour from the take with this guy. Intern John joining us from Hot 99.5 on the LZ. What's up, my man?
Good to see you, dude. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, good. It's funny. We should have practiced that first. We kinda off
Next
a little
time.
bit,
We'll get there. Yeah.
Hey, we call this our Thursday Talkers. Some of the stories that you, my friends, are discussing at home. I think you're going to like these, Intern John. We're going to start off with a stinky culprit. And what am I making mention of? Apparently, when it comes to couples and or roommates and or family members that you happen to live with, well, a lot of folks say, you know what, I'm getting tired of that stinky mess that you have around the house. In this case, I'm making reference to, let's say, used gym clothes.
Ooh.
They're the cause of argument.
Yeah.
Let's say stinky socks, cause of argument.
Sure.
The trash that you left in there for days on end, cause of an argument. Sure. And last but not least, let's just say pet odors. Maybe that, pet blanket. And I know you have.
Tough.
Yeah.
Tough.
So, do you agree? Is it a start of an argument because of that?
I think the worst smell is the smell in the fridge, because you have to search for that one. That requires you opening the fridge and then sniffing each thing to find out what's bad. That's far worse. At least with the pile of clothes, you know it's the dirty clothes.
Yeah.
The fridge, it's like, you gotta get in there and get nose deep, dude.
You know what's so funny? Because and maybe this is too much information. When I opened the fridge today, I noticed a lemon that, quite honestly, had a little green stuff.
Yeah.
On the outside
well, and the work
of it.
fridges are the worst. Those ones, it's like, that stuff's been there longer than the Carter administration. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm not in a position where I live with someone, but in the past. Yeah, I could see that. I remember at some point, those used gym clothes, they were kind of like laying around the bed.
Sure.
And I'm like, yeah, you got to move that. It's kind of, that smell is starting to really.
Stank.
Yeah, which I don't really like. And
Crusty.
it was the start of an argument.
Well, if the clothes can stand on their own, it's probably time to wash them. That's usually my go-to.
Hey, it's the middle of October. We haven't even really celebrated Halloween yet, and I'm about to talk about Thanksgiving in a major way.
Okay.
All right. So first of all, let me get this correct, because I talked about this on the radio, and I'm pretty sure you did on your radio show this morning as well. I'm hoping, but it's known as cup noodles, folks, not cup of noodles. I want to make that clear. That's the official term for cup noodles, okay?
I
now
think
that
I
I
said
got that
cup of
out.
noodles.
Yeah, I've always said that too. But
I microwave them too. I couldn't microwave them until this past
year.
year.
You see that right there on the TV screen? It says cup noodles.
Dude, okay, but the pumpkin one, listen.
So that's what we're talking about.
White people, we gotta stop. Listen, we gotta stop.
All right,
that's horrendous.
Not one, but two. In this case, 2 cup noodles, I should add, with regard to all things Thanksgiving. The first one happens to be the turkey dinner flavor. It has the rich essence of herb seasoning turkey broth with sweet corn, tangy cranberry bursts, crispy green beans, and warming spices and tender noodles, all for you. Would you take a dive into that, Intern John?
The turkey one, I think, sounds at least like okay, because
Yeah.
that's not too far off from like normal like ramen.
Yeah.
But like the pumpkin one, dude. I hate pumpkin spice. I've tried it, hot and cold. I didn't get it. I returned my North Face, and it was couldn't listen to Taylor Swift. It was over for me.
In this case, the pumpkin pie flavor has pumpkin-flavored broth with a brown sugar sweetness and a signature of pie spices that feel like a bite of moist, homemade pumpkin pie. The way they sell this stuff is just, I think it's one for the record books.
You're only the brown sugar I need guy is you. I think pumpkin spice I'm good with.
Yeah, I'm not going to eat this as well. I mean, it's just something about this thing. It's like, it's just really weird.
Well, I think like the texture too, like your brain's gonna tell you this doesn't make sense, and that like maybe to try once, but not as a constant go-to.
Yeah.
That's horrendous.
All right, that's one thing I'm fearful of, and I'm curious if you're fearful of the next topic. In this case, according to a newly released study, since we are right around Halloween, most folks, whopping, 58%, I believe, of folks are scared of the dark.
Oh boy.
Yes, we're talking about not only most folks, but apparently more men than women. Here it is. The study found that, 3 out of 5 Americans are actually afraid of the dark. The survey discovered that many of us still have a fear of the dark, with men fearing dark the most, and as a result, 25% of people sleep with a nightlight, while 10% sleep with a stuffed animal. You got a stuffed animal you sleeping with?
I got a dog. I think most dudes are lying though, because they know they gotta go check like the noises in the night, so they'll pretend to be scared so their girl checks instead. You know what I mean? I really think that's what it is.
Oh,
like,
gosh.
Yeah, I'm too scared to check. Dear, can you check, please? Like, what do you want me to do if he's in the house? Ask him to leave? Call 911?
I won't venture to say, is that why you're single? And don't
No,
know if you
listen,
are.
I'm not Tony P. I don't have a black belt. You know what I mean? I take karate classes online.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of the dark, but only at night. So when it's time to sleep, I want it to be dark.
Absolutely,
I don't need a night light, and I don't need a stuffed animal. I'm not opposed to it, but yeah, I think I'm okay with the dark.
Unless I'm in a hotel and don't know the layout, then I'll lay on the bathroom sound, break my ankle at the Holiday Inn Express. That's not a look we want.
Hotel, motel, Holiday Inn.
Come on now. You kids don't know.
So you're coming up on the take in just about 14 minutes
Yes.
or so. What are you chatting about?
There's a certain county in VA that's surprised young people aren't moving there.
Ooh.
It's a very expensive county. Could be why, but we'll see.
All right, that's what you call a tease, ladies and gentlemen, and he does it oh so well. Of course, he does it right here. He does it on the take, and you get a chance to see him do it each and every morning, or hear him do it on 99.5. Good to see you, my friend.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Guy. Thanks, dude.
We'll see. Did we get it right this time? Yeah, we got to work on that, man.
Well, I keep watching myself in the camera. Wait.
All right, there we go.
This is it. I got drafted. New team, new player. We're good to go.
We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Fox 5 Live Zone. We are now 10 minutes away from the top of the hour. Obviously, all eyes remain on Capitol Hill. Yes, the topic of discussion, the government shutdown. When will it come to an end? Here's House Speaker Mike Johnson.
Painful for real Americans. We're going to share a little bit about that situation with you this morning, and then get an update on one specific segment regarding Homeland Security and what that's doing for the security of our country. If you're keeping count, 9 times the Senate Democrats have voted to keep the government closed. All the House Democrats except one voted September 19th to shut it down. So this is 10 total times now that Democrats in Congress have voted to close the government. And we know what that means for real people. We know what it means for our troops and our Border Patrol agents and TSA agents and air traffic controllers and everybody who relies upon services around the country. It's very real. And so today marks yet another day of American families feeling the very real personal and economic strain of this reckless decision that our Democrat colleagues keep making. They want the United States government to remain closed, and they seem not to care about the pain that it's causing. They have offered no plan. They have offered no strategy. They have offered no common sense path forward for ending this situation. And so many of you have asked all of us, how will it end? We have no idea. It's up to the Democrats, and they have to decide it. And judging by their outrageous behavior, the Democrats appear perfectly happy to keep the political theater going while real people suffer. And that's why House Republicans made the responsible decision for our members to spend this week in their districts working for the people. They're helping their constituents. They're helping the American people navigate the mess that the Democrats have created. Staying back to work with our constituents was a decision that we made very thoughtfully and we made collectively as a group, House Republicans. We have so much of that work to do. That's not some talking point. It's not some strategic tactic. We made that decision out of urgent necessity. So I want to highlight here just this morning, just very briefly, just a couple of examples, a small sample of some of the very important work that House Republicans are doing on the ground right now to help Americans through this difficult time. In the state of Michigan, for example, our members are sitting down with veterans, men and women who risked their lives for our country, and they're struggling now because the services they depend on, health services, for example, have come to a halt thanks to the Schumer shutdown. So in Michigan, our Republicans from the House are there working through those situations. In Texas, many of our Republican colleagues have met with some of our brave Border Patrol agents down on that southern border who are still reporting for duty without a paycheck. In Montana, Congressman Ryan Zinke helped park rangers who are keeping the parks open as best they can for families and travelers, even as they themselves go without a paycheck. Across the Midwest, we have members who are meeting with local and regional airports to hear firsthand how furloughs and blocked paychecks there are hurting the people who keep our skies safe. Really important stuff. In rural communities around the country, Republicans are working hand in hand with their local hospitals to make sure that the $50 billion rural hospital fund that Republicans got signed into law in July 4th is accessed. It reaches the people who need it. And they're doing that work while the Democrats are demanding to kill that essential fund that is in their counterproposal for the CR, one of the many outrageous things they've claimed they want to do. And everywhere across America right now, we're helping small business owners and farmers and ranchers and service coordinators navigate frozen loans and delayed emergency funds and growing uncertainty about how to keep serving their communities. So all across the country, Republicans are dealing with the very real and painful consequences facing real Americans. Now, that's happening on the Republican side. And what's happening on the Democrat side? You can see it for yourself. Compare what I just told you with what they're doing. Look at their own behavior. Look at their actions. Don't listen to the words that people are saying. Look at what they're doing. Chuck Schumer and Democrats over the last 10 days, here's a small sample of their activity, okay? We've seen performative stunts and TikToks and photo shoots across every inch of this Capitol. We've seen Democrats actually toast themselves on the balcony of the DCCC last night, while their colleagues voted in the Senate to keep the government closed for the 10th time. We've seen not one but two failed publicity stunts right outside my own office, the latest of which ended in a congresswoman storming the entrance and berating a Capitol police officer who, by the way, is protecting her without pay. And last night, we even saw, I didn't see it, many of you saw it, CNN host the first socialist town hall where Bernie Sanders and AOC said the quiet parts out loud. They don't know what they want to end this shutdown. They couldn't provide a single viable solution for the mess that they themselves have gleefully created. And by the way, those are the real leaders of the Democrat Party. We all know it, AOC and Bernie. Good luck with that. And amid all that, Chuck Schumer is actually bragging that every day gets better for his party. As you know, that is his words, not ours. All this would be laughable if it didn't come at the cost of American families, and it really is deadly serious. If it were up to Republicans alone, we would not be in this mess. We'd be up here negotiating and debating openly and transparently on the issues impacting Americans' lives. But as I've said repeatedly, Democrats slammed the brakes on legislative business when they decided to shut down the government for their partisan political purposes. The progress we made on appropriations and the conversations that were underway on the COVID-era Obamacare subsidies and all those issues, all that sits at a standstill until Democrats reopen the government. As soon as 5 Senate Democrats come to their senses and break ranks and turn the lights back on, House Republicans are anxious to get back to legislative session and to pick up our unfinished business. We have a lot yet to do. Until then, I'll continue to share the facts from this podium every morning to try to get this message directly to the American people. Republicans will continue serving on the job in our communities on behalf of the American people that we represent. I'm going to conclude this morning by saying this again. There's an incredible contrast right now between the two parties that could not be more clear. As we say here every day, this is not your grandfather's Democratic Party. It truly has become the far left, Marxist left, that are running that whole operation. And it has real effects on real people. And I just want you to, I'll highlight again the split screen of what we're seeing. In America right now, there are two diametrically opposed visions for the country, and you should look at the actions of elected officials and not their words. And what are the actions? President Trump and Republicans are delivering for the American people. We have cut their taxes. We are removing red tape and regulations to get the economy humming again. We have ended the border crisis, virtually zero crossings in the last 4 months under President Trump. We are ending the crime crisis around America, taking heroic measures to make sure that happens. We're cutting fraud, waste, and abuse out of government and making government more efficient and effective for the people. And right now, President Trump is resolving international conflicts, restoring peace through strength around the globe. That's just a small sampling of what's been done by Republicans in the last 9 months. And what have Democrats done for the last 9 months? On the split screen, look at the other side. They've shut down the government. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Put all the gimmicks and the talking points aside and look at the indisputable facts and evidence of what is happening right here. There could not be a stronger contrast between the two parties. And I don't know how more simply we can say that. With all that, I'm really happy to introduce
well, and all that, he's going to introduce me. Yet again, you've been watching House Speaker Johnson with regard to all things surrounding the government shutdown. Now in week 3, and it appears to be no end in sight in the near future. We'll continue to monitor that throughout the afternoon right here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. I should make mention yet again, the other big story this hour is that President Trump has now decided to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Hungary next week or sometime in the near future, he is stating, with regard to ending the war with Ukraine. We'll continue to follow that. And of course, President Trump meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky tomorrow at the White House. We'll have that for you right here on the Live Zone. Real quick, if you haven't already done so, make sure you download the Fox Local app. You see it right there on your TV screen. That way you can take out your cell phone and click on the QR code, and you, my friend, are good to go. On behalf of my producer, Emmy and Joey, we truly appreciate you watching the Fox 5 Live Zone. I'm Guy Lambert. The Take coming up next right here on Fox 5.